Okay, so we built a little keyboard here that will play sounds, and it's pretty fun. But we're going to modify this now to turn it into a touch piano, so we could use the touch pins to play sounds. And one of the things that we're going to do here that will enable this is instead of starting over, we're going to modify this so that we can still play all our notes, and we can still use the keys here to do it, but we can also use the touch pins at the same time. And we'll set it up so we can do both and go easily between them. And so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to come back to our INI file. We're going to get rid of, so first of all, right, we've got our library in here, and we've got our monitor speed set. We're going to get rid of this echo because we only want to print outputs, so we can be using those to calibrate our touch pins. And then so coming back to here, we've got kind of like the main code where we're checking to see if there's a button pressed, and then we're handling like the musical note if it is. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take all of this and we're going to put it into a function, and we'll call it int check serial. And we're going to basically take all of this here, and we're going to copy it. And so what we'll do, we're going to say int note equals -1, and then we're going to checking for serial inputs. And let's see, we have an issue with our brackets. So if it's available, okay, I gotta have an extra close bracket. There we go. So we're checking to see if there's anything available there, and if there is, we take that input, and then here we shift the octave we are requesting an octave shift, and then we're getting a note here. We'll get rid of the int here, so we'll just assign it there. And then what we're going to do is we're going to return note. Okay, and so if there's nothing available on the serial, it's going to return -1, or if we're just changing the octave, it will also return -1. Now the benefit here is we can say now we can get rid of basically all of this, quite all of it, so up to here. Okay, and then we can say int note equals check serial. Okay, and then we'll clean this up a little bit. So we want that still. We'll shift this guy over. Okay. And so we need to take our function prototype and put it up here at the top. Okay, and now I need to get rid of this. Okay. Okay. So we're going to check the serial. And now let's make another function that is play note. Check serial. We'll say void play note. And we're going to pass into it the note we want to play. Okay. And we'll put this prototype up here too. Okay, so we play the note. And then we're going to copy all of this to here. Okay, so we play our note there. And so now we're going to say play note. All right, now let's check and see that this all works as we expect it to. This is going to allow us to kind of do some additional work behind the scenes to make our code work in both cases that we want it to work. Okay, so the one issue we have is we keep getting this message about an invalid note, so we don't really need that anymore. So what we're going to do is we're going to remove this else case here so we don't get that, and that should clean up that message there. You can see I'm getting some feedback over here too from it, and that's going to prevent that from happening because we don't need that anymore. It's just going to get in the way. And now we should be good. And so okay, still works as expected. And so now we're going to implement the touch pin part of it. But before we do, we probably want to have some type of structure for managing all the different things that can happen with the note. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we're going to make a struct or a data type that's going to contain all the information we need to have our different piano keys. We'll call it piano key type, and then we'll have our we'll say int touch pin. So we'll have a touch pin, we'll have a threshold, we'll have a key index, and then we'll have a let's see what else, int LED pin. Okay, and the idea here is we could have a if you want to have an LED turn on when the button is pressed, you can, or when that key is touched, you can do that, and so that it will give you a visual representation as well. And so you don't, these will be optional things. And so what we'll do is now we'll make an array of piano keys, and we'll do, so piano key type, piano key array. And then what we're going to do is, and so the idea is we have 8 different notes that we can play here, but maybe we don't actually want 8 piano keys. And so we assign a key index to each piano key so it knows which sound from our scale to play. Okay? And so let's say we only want maybe 4 notes. And so for each one, we'll set the touch pin. Let me look up those touch pins again. Okay, so we'll put, we'll do 4, pin 4. Oops, I need a second set of brackets here. Okay, so pin 4 will be our first touch pin. We'll set the threshold at 50. We'll set our key index at 0. And then we'll set the corresponding LED pin, say, to 23. And so if you don't want LED, maybe just set it at -1. If you do, set it to 23. And then what we'll do now is we'll add another one, right? So that's our first key. There's our second one, third one, fourth one. Say we have fourth. Okay, so for the second one, we'll go pin, I took a picture of these as a reference, which pins I wanted to use. So we'll go 15, pin 15, we'll go pin 13, and then we'll go pin 12. Okay, and we got the threshold set at 50 for all these. The key index, so then 0, 2, 4, and 7 is what we'll do. So we can play a scale. And then for each of these, we'll add an LED pin. So let me look at some of these free pins that we've got. We'll go 35, 32, 35, actually 33, 32, and 34. So 33, 32, 35, and 34. Okay, or let's say you don't want an LED for that one. You can make that one -1. Okay, but having these will allow us to basically have a visual that that button was pressed. Okay, and so now we'll go ahead and get rid of these notes here at the beginning, and we're going to initialize those LEDs. So we'll say for int I equals 0, I is less than num touch pins I plus plus, and then we're just going to initialize these. So we'll say pin mode, we'll say piano key array I, and we'll say output. So we're setting each of these I dot LED pin as outputs. So probably what we should do is actually say int LED pin equals that, and then if LED pin not equal to -1, then we'll set it as an output. Okay. So now let's make a variable for the number of touch pins. So int num touch pins, and then we'll set that here. Num touch pins equal to size of piano key array divided by the size of one entry here in the piano key array. And this will tell us, right, how many entries. Okay, so we got that. And now we'll have a second variable here. We'll check touch pins. So we'll make this function now. So we'll say note serial and note touch. Okay. And then we'll say int note equals note serial. And then we'll add some logic here to decide which one to play. And so I'll make a function int check touch pins. Okay. And so now this is the one where we will read each of those touch pins. And we'll say for int I equals 0, I is less than num touch pins I plus plus. All right, and so we've got something to do right here where we're going to handle this logic for checking to see if those pins are pressed. Okay, so we're going to iterate through our touch pins and we're going to read each of them. So I'll make a separate function called read touch pin, and we'll pass into it a our struct piano key type, and we'll call it the key, and we'll make it a pointer to a key. Okay, so we don't have to make a copy of it. And so for each of these, we're going to read touch pin, and then we'll pass in piano key array and the index of R. Okay, and then we want to grab that, and so we'll say and so we'll get we'll see where that key is pressed, and then we will we want to send the reference, so we got to put the little ampersand right here. Okay, and then we'll have our note here, so we'll say int note equals -1. Okay, and so we're going to say if key pressed, and we'll send that note. So we'll say note equals piano key array dot key index. Nope. Okay, now we do have one potential issue here that we want to think about, is if we are already playing that note, we probably don't want to register it. And so let's come back to here, and let's come back to our struct, and we'll say int playing, or we'll call it a bool actually, so bool playing, and then we'll add a little false flag here to each of these so that we register that they're not playing at the start. Okay, and then what we'll do here is we'll check to see if it's playing, if key pressed and not we'll go like this, dot playing, like that. Okay, and so now we'll only register that key press if it's playing, and then we will return note. Okay, otherwise we'll say return note here if none of them are playing, or we can just say -1 and get rid of this, and we could just say return. Okay, so we return the index or -1. Okay, if that node is not playing. Okay, so in here, when we disable all them, let's make another function. We'll say void set playing false, and we're going to iterate through here, through all our keys, and we're going to say that they're not playing. Okay, and so we'll get rid of all this, and we'll just say, or we'll call this reset keys, is what we'll call it. Okay, so piano key array I dot playing equals false. Okay, and so we're going to reset the keys in 2 spots. So when we play a note, if we time out on it and we disable the DAC, we're going to reset the keys there. And then here, when we play the note, we are going to also reset the keys here. Okay, and so we're going to reset those keys, and then we need to set key playing by index. So this part's a little tricky. So we basically need to tell it which key is going to be playing based on the index. And so we're going to make another function here. Okay, so we'll put our void reset keys function here, and we'll make a void set key playing by index function here. And so in the case that we have selected a key to play, we need to make sure we say that it's playing so that it doesn't accidentally try to play again without us lifting up our finger. Okay? Okay, and we actually need to pass in the index here, right? So int index, and we'll say, we'll loop through here, and we're going to say if piano key array dot key index is equal to the index, we're going to set that particular key to true. Since there's only one that could be playing, we're going to then return if it worked. Okay? And so this way, it will take care of that for us if there's one that's actually being used. And so we'll say int index here to fix our prototype. Okay, and so that's done. And so now we handle basically like if we're holding down or we're touching it for too long. Okay, and then if we trigger a note with the serial, it will just set it to playing still and won't make a difference. Okay, so that's done. And the last thing here is to handle reading it. Okay, and so now we just gotta handle reading those pins. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna say uint 8t value equals touch read. Okay, and we're gonna pass in the key. From the key, we're gonna get the touch pin. Okay, and we're gonna print that value out. Serial.print value. Serial.print a comma, so that we can have these on the serial plotter so we can calibrate them. And then so at the end of here, we'll have to fix this function because we need to print them all. Okay, so we got all those, and then we've got what we'll do is we'll say if value is greater than our threshold, true to turn that key on, else we will return false. Okay, and then if the key LED pin not equal to -1, so if you've assigned an LED to that one, we can turn it on. So say digital write LED pin, nope, key LED pin, and we'll set it to high. And then in the case that it's off, we will set it to low. And so now we have an LED indicator to go with our key if it's pressed. And then what we'll do is we actually need to make a change to this function where we say note -1, and then note equals, and then we return the note. The reason we want to do this is there's two things here. We want to be able to print out all those values every time through for calibration purposes. And then we'll add the print line here so it prints it over. And then also, like if you're pressing multiple buttons, then we want to see that each of those lights is turning on and stuff. And so it gets a little bit tricky there. And there is a little bit of a bug that we're going to run into with our code where if we have multiple buttons being pressed, we could run into an issue where it behaves inconsistently due to the way that we're handling those states. But we can look at that on the next part here. And so now it's just about setting up those touch pins on the piano with some keys, and it should work with anything conductive. And so like you can put like different kinds of fruit on there. You could put like spoons or forks or knives, or any like kitchen knives or pencils, maybe things like that. Okay, so we did run into one small issue, and it was related to the keys they're using for the LEDs. So I've gone ahead and changed those to 5, 18, 19, and 21. And so here you can see my output on there from the different touch pins. And if we come in and we touch them, those values change. One thing that might be worth doing is coming in here in our loop, adding a small delay, and then we can still play our piano. Oh, that's interesting. That may be affecting the output there. Actually, I think what it is this. So we need to, let's think. Get rid of this line right here, the serial.print in the play note. And we need to add a short delay in our loop here. So we're going to add a delay of about 50 milliseconds just to clean this up. Okay. And that should kind of get things where we need them to be to have a touch piano.